Today I want to talk to you about working smarter, not harder. I tell you, it is so easy to get wrapped up in the rat race of just moving. You're hustling, but you ain't making the money that you should. So let's talk about how we can work smarter than harder. My name is Ann, and I've been reselling for quite some time with my husband, Bill. We've been doing it for, I'd say, 14 years now, and we've learned a few tips and tricks along the way, and I'm just trying to share them with you, and hopefully maybe even learning a little something from you as well. So while we go over this topic, I will pull some items that we've sold today, and let's get into it. So one thing is, I think we need to recognize being busy compared to being productive. I don't know if you've ever heard of the 80-20 rule. It's a pretty popular rule. If you study any business courses, you'll definitely hear this. The concept is basically 20% of what you do during the day or in your life is going to give you about 80% of your results. So you want to make sure that 20% wants to be positive. You want it not to just be busy work. You want it to be productive. So let's make that 20% really successful for our 80% of what our results are. So we don't want just busy work, right? We want to have things that are productive, that are actually helping us, that's going to move us forward. So, one thing is, do you recognize when you're just being busy or whether you're being productive? I tell you, one loop that we can get really caught up in is research. Now, I definitely suggest that you do research on the items that you sell. But you can go down a rabbit hole with it. My husband is really good at researching. He loves it. He enjoys it. It isn't something that I per se enjoy doing. So he does the majority of the research. I will do light research. He'll deep dive. And that is great to a point. But if you're researching and you're not putting that information into action, it's useless. Or if you go too far down, you only need to know so much about a camera before you can list it. You don't need to know the ins and outs of it. So that is one area or one example of how sometimes it ends up being you're hustling really hard, but it's starting to be busy work instead of productive work. Definitely research, take it to a point, and then move on. The other thing is sourcing. Make sure you're looking at sourcing in productive ways as well. Are you just running around in circles, or do you have your favorite spots? So let's pull an order here. I'm going to start off with, I know you guys know we've been selling a lot of boat parts. Well, I've also been selling a lot of service manuals. I'm about, I would say, 2/3 way through listing all of the boat service manuals, the Mercury service manuals. So I'm going to just show you the pile of service manuals that I have to ship today. Here it is. There's 7 orders just for Mercury service manuals. I will tell you, if you can find service manuals, they're not high dollar usually, some are, but I mean, they add up. They're good bread and butters. But I will say things for like boats, ATVs, those do great. Older cars do well, but they're overpopulated. But I'd still pick them up if you can get them cheap. Don't spend a lot on service manuals. But they do sell. I do pick them up. They're easy lists, easy ship. Next, I have a Texas Longhorns baseball cap. It's a 950 New Era snapback. And this sold for $17.49, and the customer did pay shipping. Now, this one was around for a while. It did go through our sales program, so I'm happy to see it moving on to somebody who's going to enjoy it. This is a leaf plate assembly. It's an OMC OEM part, and it's for Mercury boats. This sold for $45, and the customer did pay shipping. Another thing to think about when you want to work smarter instead of harder is in your sourcing. Make sure when you're going out looking for inventory, I touched on this a little bit already, make sure you have your hotspots for sourcing. Make sure that you have somewhere where you can get consistent inventory in. You know, it's once you get into this and you deep dive into it, sometimes you can run into ruts of finding inventory. If you have a place where you can always get inventory that you are successful in, make sure you keep track of those. Those are places that you want to remember, you don't want to forget, you want to build relationships. If you haven't found those yet, that's something to work on, and I would say that's working smarter, is to build those relationships. There's so many different ways that you can get inventory in. You can talk to friends, family, you can sell stuff out of your house, you can go to thrift stores and things like that. But once you get deeper into it, if you're doing it on a regular basis, you can't rely on thrift stores alone. I will guarantee you that. If you're doing this very part-time, sure, you'll be able to find enough to keep you going. But if you really get into it, you're not going to be able to count on thrift stores and family and friends and your old things that you have laying around. I don't know, unless you're a hoarder to start with and you just need to get rid of the stuff. But for most of us, we're going to have other sources. Other sources might be, auctions, estate sales, definitely rummage sales during the summer, building a stock. There's a difference between a death pile and an inventory stockpile. Now, that is bringing us to another point. Your death pile, keep it under control. Don't let it take over your life. It is going to be a lot harder, and you're going to be less motivated if you have a huge death pile. Now, what's the difference? Well, a death pile is all those things that you didn't feel like listing, that just sit there, just keep getting avoided. Have you ever heard of the first in, first out? First in, first out means that anything that came in first gets listed first, so it gets sold first and gets out first. So, first in, first out. Basically, if you were in the retail business, they will take everything in the inventory on the shelves and they're going to move the older stock to the front of the shelf, so you're going to be more likely to pull that item. For us, if we don't list that item, then it can't go out. So, first in, first out concept in a reseller's life, selling on eBay or Poshmark or Mercari, is we got to get those first items that came in listed. If they don't get listed, they don't sell, so they can't go out the door. So I'm not saying that you have to list everything right away as soon as it comes in the door, but don't let it pile up where you have all this hard stuff that you never list. Because what ends up happening is you just end up donating it or giving it away and getting rid of it when it is income. You meant to use those funds. We just recently we pushed ourselves to finally deal with some of the stuff that has just been sitting there, that bigger stuff that you got to put on Facebook Marketplace that you just didn't want to deal with. We just cleaned out a lot of stuff in our shed, and we do this pretty regularly to make sure that death pile don't get too big. So that's the next suggestion for you. All right, let's pull another item. So the next item didn't sell for much. It is from 1967. It's a Barbie outfit. It's actually like a little PJ garment set. It's got like a slip, some slips, and it's got an old telephone. And a Barbie mirror. And this didn't sell for much, but it'll be a really light ship. But this sold for a little $12 free shipping. But we'll get it out and hopefully the customer will enjoy it. Alright, the last one might have not been very big. This one is a Matco Tools 10-piece 3/8 inch drive. They're basically a swivel socket set. This sold for $166.25, and the customer did pay shipping. Now, this is a very good point. This $12 item probably wasn't worth much of my time. This item, probably pretty good. Honestly, it more depends on your return on investment. So, it's great to have higher priced items. I totally agree. But, it depends, what did you pay for each? Now, this one, honestly, came in a bulk lot of Barbie stuff. We probably should have bulked this in with something else instead of, but we weren't sure. So we listed it. But this one was my son's, and he was getting rid of it, and so we were doing a favor for him. But it really depends. What did you pay for the item? Make sure your return on investment is what you're looking at, not your retail value. Because your retail value, if I paid $150 for this, I would have probably been losing money on this item. Well, at least not making very much by the time I pay. No, I would have been losing money. Because of the fees that you have to pay for eBay. Your shipping costs. Now the customer did pay shipping for this. But I still have to pay for the box. I have to pay for the packaging supplies that go in it. I have to pay the eBay fees. So there are things that you have to think about on what you're going to sell things for. And make sure you're looking at return on investment. The other thing is, how long does it take you to photograph each item? This only took me a few seconds. I still wouldn't have suggested doing this one. This one I would have. Because my son will make some good profit on this. He got years of use out of it. He got his time out of it, and now he's going to get rid of it anyway, so he'll make some good money on it. But my point really is just look on your return on investment. Maybe these weren't the best examples because this wasn't something I paid for, but we make sure we keep our cost of goods extremely low, and that way we know that we're going to make good money back. 70% Paranoid. I like the name of this one. $24 free shipping. Schwana. This sold for $17.50 free shipping. So this brings up a good point. I could have just let this stuff go. It's older inventory. Move on, let it go, free up space. But I instead decided to work smarter instead of harder. I'm still bringing in income from this. I just put on a sales program. So using the tools available to you, such as sales program, promoted listings, offers, all those things, that's smart. That's smart working. You're moving inventory. It doesn't take you a lot of time. Use the tools that eBay provides you, or I'm sure Poshmark and Mercari have things as well, but use those promoted listings, use those discounts, and get things sold. So here are some gaskets for Mercury boat parts, again, OEM parts. These weren't worth much, so we decided to bundle them together. So we're shipping 2 in the set. So we bundled. You want to try to pull up that average selling price, and so sometimes we'll bundle things in order to increase the average selling price. These, we had them anyways. We bought them in the bulk. We bought a storage unit and they were in there. And so to throw these out wouldn't have been very smart. We could still make funds on them. But we wanted to get the average selling price up. So that's what we did. $10, and the customer did pay shipping. I would have liked to bundle that a little bit bigger and even put more in because we have more of those, but we didn't feel like if we would have bundled it higher that it would have been, I don't think that they would have sold well if we would have bundled them any more than 2 at a time. But they were like items, they were the exact same things, so we were able to do multiple quantities. That was only $10, but we bundled it as high as we could, and I think we have, I want to say 6 more listings. So that's $60 then. So, you know, there are times that it just isn't worth listing, and sometimes you do have to move on from it. But find ways to make it work. Multiple listings or bundling really does help. Another thing that you want to make sure you do to work smarter than harder is have your inventory organized. Have a system so you know where your inventory is. I tell you, start early. Don't wait until you got all this stuff. Oh, I'll remember where that is. No, Make sure you know where it is, because if you're searching for inventory, let me tell you, for one thing, it'll give you anxiety because you promised this item to a customer, you can't find it. But how long is it going to take you to find that item if you don't have it organized and easy to find? So I highly suggest, I do have a video on an inventory system. It works for me. It's very easy to follow. Try that. See if that video helps you. If not, find a way that works for you. My system might not be perfect for you, but maybe you can pull something from it that might help, or maybe you can watch some other YouTube videos or get suggestions from other sellers. Get an inventory system. It will save you. Next item is by the police, and it's Ghost in the Machine, and it is $22.50 for shipping. Another thing that's really important to do is batch your work. Okay, so you saw my pile of service manuals. I listed these. Guess what? When I list manuals, I list manuals. So what me and my husband do is we batch our work. So we will do our research and make rough drafts. That will be one step. Then we will take photos and we will figure out shipping in another step. We will also, if we can at all, we will list similar items at the same time. So all those manuals, I had quite a few manuals, so I didn't do them all at the same time. I still have about a third of them left, but I will do a bunch of them at one time. And then the next day I'll pick something else with similar items. Like I used to sell a lot of jeans. I would do all the jeans on one day. If I could split them up into brands, I would split them up into brands. Or we have boat parts. We'll list boat parts that day. Or we just cleaned out another storage unit that had a bunch of Funko Pops on it. We're going to be working on those, and we'll list all the Funko Pops on a day. So try you can move a lot quicker if you batch things together. And that's working smarter. So this is an oil filter wrench. It's by Matco, and this sold for $25, and the customer did pay for shipping. This is Black Rob, the Black Rob Report, and this sold for $17.60 for shipping. Another thing I suggest is have goals. In many of my videos, I talk about how I use tickets to help myself with inventory, the little raffle tickets. And basically what I'll do is I'll pull 10 tickets out. Guess what? It's very motivating to get through those 10 tickets, and it will give me the motivation a lot of times to pull more tickets. And I get through my 10 listings a lot quicker than if I just keep thinking I have more and more and more. The other thing you can do is time blocks. If you're doing something, there's a concept, and they have done different researches on this. And basically, if you give yourself a week to list 50 items, it will take you a week to list 50 items. If you give yourself a day, or say 2 days, to list 50 items, guess what? You'll get them listed in those 2 days. So I'm not saying that you want to push yourself that hard all the time to list 50 items in 2 days. I mean, give yourself some grace, because we want to be in it for the long haul. We're not just doing this for short periods. But also, don't go too easy on yourself either. You want to make your goals challenging enough where you're going to succeed and move forward. So just something to think about when you want to work hard. Set those goals. Set them realistic, but don't be too easy on yourself. Okay, this is a fuel pump kit, and we listed this and we got $16 plus shipping. It is by Sierra, and it is an OEM part, and that's why it sells so well. Here's a check valve kit, again an OEM Mercury part. This sold for $40 free shipping. Just a couple other suggestions. Look at what you've done in the past and see what's working. Look at your numbers. eBay has a lot of information on their website on what your sales have been and where they're going. Look at what your cost of goods are. Are you paying too much for things, or are you doing pretty good? Are there areas that you can pull back on expenses, find things cheaper? Look at your numbers. Look at systems that have been working, or is there something that you can change to improve it? It's always good to review what has worked and what hasn't worked, and that way you'll be able to work smarter instead of harder. The other suggestion I would have is make sure you have areas set up to make life easier. Like I have my light box set up for taking pictures. Now, as I've been pulling items, I use it to put all my stuff up there. But I have a light box, and I have my tape measure over there, and I'll have my tickets all set up, and we'll just be able to move and be able to put things in place. I have an inventory system set up. I have a desk area where I can do my listings. I can do my paperwork. And another thing I really suggest, and this is where I am not very good at it, keep up on your bookkeeping. At the end of the year, you do have to pay taxes. So I do suggest keeping up on that. Maybe you guys can send me some reminders, because I got to get better at it. I work on it very, very hard, and I am getting better, but it's something that I am still working on. So I do suggest keeping up on your paperwork and your bookkeeping. it's just part of being in business. So I hope this video gave you some tips on being more productive, working smarter instead of harder, because I want to see you guys succeed. We're working hard to succeed here, and I love the support you guys are giving me. So don't forget to comment, subscribe, and in the meantime, happy selling.